Hey, everybody, it's Natalie B. McKenzie with The Whole Woman, and welcome to this week's episode of Living Life Authentically with yours truly. See this happy smile? Guess what? It's the first day of spring. Yes! We're just about rid of old Mr. Winter where all things die. Yes. Can we just have spring? So, new life, new birth, growth, happiness, sunshine, and warmth comes alive. Yay! This is my time of year. It's getting warm. Anyway, I digress. Welcome to spring and welcome to all things the whole woman. This week on Living Life Authentically, we have an amazing guest. But before we get started, let's tell you how we're going to be celebrating this phenomenal woman on Monday. Join us live at Capitol Grill on Sunday, March 26th. That's Sunday, March 26th, for Women Honoring Women. That's our annual women's event where we celebrate a trifecta of terrific women. Our honorees this year are Dr. Donna Mendez, and she is in the Library of Congress as the first African-American woman to become a vascular surgeon. Of course, today's guest is none other than Dr. Balpreet Grewal-Virk, and she is a phenomenal woman in her rights, a community health advocate, and doing so many other intense things in the state of New Jersey. I don't want Facebook to tell me I am doing what they call it, political ads. So I won't even say some of the things she does in the state of New Jersey, but just know she's on the ROI list. I think this is maybe the fourth year in a row. And that's today's guest. I'm excited. Anyway, and our third honoree for Women Honoring Women next Sunday, happening live at Capitol Grill at noon, the Capitol Grill in Paramus, New Jersey, is Dr. Glenda Baskin Glover. She is the current president of Tennessee State University, and she is the 30th international president of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And so all you Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority sisters out there, come on out and celebrate with us as we will have her in the house. So without further ado, remember also, next Sunday at our event, one of the key things we're going to be giving away lots of goodies. And you know, the Lady Mist collection is always available. And that's the Lady Mist collection that was designed in cooperation with three amazing women. I think we have something with the number three, can't you tell? But we love collaborating. We love celebrating. We love promoting women. And we especially like to celebrate those women who are living and doing things in excellence. Thank you, Shoe Cosmetics, for helping us to create our hand sanitizer. Thank you so much to Miracle Buttercream. That would be Mama Sita over there, Sita Lewis, who is doing great things at Miracle Buttercream. She helped to create our body butter. And of course, to Tiffany Rose at Homeschool, who created the fragrance Lady Mist in conjunction with myself. And she did our amazing candle. All three are available. Use the barcode on your screen to purchase your tickets for Sunday and to purchase your Lady Mist collection. Anyway, our guest today, ladies and gentlemen, I get the pleasure of calling her a dear friend. And I learned that we had something else quite in common. I won't spill the beans. I'll let her tell you herself. But she is none other than the Vice President of Community Health at Robert Wood Johnson Barnabas Health, and she's also an advocate for patients of spinal cord injuries. She's spoken to Senate about this. She feels very strongly about this. She'll tell you her story. Can't wait to share. She's also been appointed to co-chair the Bi-State Gateway Development Commission and was featured among ROI-NJ Influencers Women in Business in 2021, 2022, and I believe she was also featured in 2020. She enjoys spending time with her wonderful husband, who we lovingly call Yogi, and their beautiful three children. She makes motherhood, apple pie, and career butt kicker look like a walk in the park. Help me welcome today's guest, none other than Dr. Balpreet Grewal-Virk.
Hi, good afternoon, good evening, rather, Natalie. It's so great to be on with you.
It's
Thank
a
you for
pleasure.
having
Thank you
me.
so much for joining us. I know we're inclined to say afternoon now that we actually have daylight.
Absolutely. You're right. It feels good to have some sunlight at 6 o'clock. That's
At
for
6. I love it. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm not quite sure how you have time for us, because mother of three sounds like just enough to keep me at home busy all day.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be on, and it's a lot of management of time that allows me to keep up to date and to keep up to pace with women like yourself. So look who's talking, Natalie. You do so much. It's like I said, a pleasure to be here, and of course, I'd make time for you, my friend.
Well, we're delighted to have you. Um, Dr. Balpreet Grewal-Virk, which is a mouthful, and every time I have to say it all together, I stop and I think, okay, don't mess it up. But what I want to know, and I get to affectionately call you Balpreet, but I wouldn't dare because one would never want to diminish all that you have accomplished. And we want to talk about some of those things today. But tell us a little bit about Balpreet, young Balpreet, where she's from, where that smile that you wear so easily comes from. And you are always so put together. It looks like you woke up organized.
I wish. No, I appreciate that. Balpreet. I was born and raised in New Jersey. I was born at St. Joseph's Hospital in Patterson, and my family raised me in Westwood, New Jersey, not too far away. And I grew up there for most of my childhood until we moved to Mahwah, New Jersey. My parents migrated from India. My dad came here in the late 60s, and he taught as a professor of mechanical engineering at FDU. And he went back to find a bride, which was my mother, and she returned with him in the early 80s. So I spent a lot of time in Westwood. I have a younger brother, Shivy Graywal. He's about 4 years younger than me. He also lives around the corner today with his wife. So very, very close-knit family. In fact, if you run across a gray wall in Bergen County, there are about 65, 70 of us is probably someone related to me. So,
well, with a name such as that, and thank you for that correction, very subtle, but I noted it, that it's Balpreet. All this time I've called you Balpreet. You've been too kind not to correct me. And I like that you got me straight on the pronunciation of, well, it's Graywall.
Yes, Graywall.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit about growing up in New Jersey I'm an immigrant. So I get the cultural variances when you have your parents who are steeped in culture and you're moved to a country. What was that like growing up in New Jersey with your parents and a mom who, freshly minted American? Tell us about that.
So it was an interesting upbringing. When you're younger, you're younger, right? You start to learn about your role in society and who you are and who your parents are. You kind of live through them. Being an immigrant in this country for South Asian, especially in the late 60s and early 70s, even wasn't too easy. In fact, in our religion, we're Sikhs, so most of the men wear turbans. In fact, if you ever see anyone in anywhere, most people do mistaken us for Muslims, but most people that do wear a turban are of the Sikh religion. So I think it was interesting to be at that young age and to have a father who always proudly wore his turban. To explain that as a child was always sort of at the forefront, because I got that question asked often. Hey, what's that? What's that your dad's wearing? So religion played a large role in who we were then, and continues to today. And my husband and I today do bring our children to temple to go to Sunday school and are raised as Sikhs. So honestly, religion actually played a large role in my upbringing and faith, and making sure that our culture and who we were was really always there to make us actually a stronger citizen, and making sure people understood that if anybody had a question, I'd actually welcome it, and I still do today. Because I think that really helps us support who we are, and helps whether it's someone from, my children are very young, but in their school and they ask them a question, I'm always welcome to speak about it. But it was great being raised in this very close-knit South Asian community. We had a temple, and still do today, in Glen Rock. Spent a lot of time there with my parents. In fact, every Friday and every Sunday. And it was great. I really loved my time in Bergen County, and we grew up on this amazing street, Forest Avenue, and it was like the melting pot. We had every nationality, believe it or not, living right there. So it was great to be a part of that. We're lucky that in Bergen County, at least, we have this great pool of diversity. So, it never was a major hindrance for me as a child. Perhaps later in life, which we can get to, but growing up was fantastic. And again, like I said, just having that community was amazing. Having people that were curious was great, and it still plays a large part of what I do today.
To go off timeline a little bit, because you mentioned
Sure.
it, I'd hate to miss an opportunity to enlighten someone who might be out there listening who's not aware. Tell
Sure.
me what that difference is between a Sikh and Muslim, because I think so often we are ready to throw everybody in one bucket and say, oh,
Sure.
that's all the same. And I think honoring the variances helps us to understand and appreciate.
Sure, no, absolutely. So, of course, regionally, if you look at India and you even look at Pakistan, everything is pretty close together. And in fact, before there were borders or before the partition, it was all one giant unit, right? So there's a lot of folks that migrated across the Pakistani border into India and from India into Pakistan. But way before that, of course, a lot of people recognize the Hindu religion, which is thousands of years old. And then the Muslim religion, the Sikh faith is actually relatively new compared to other religions in the world. It's only 500 years old, and it's based and centered in Punjab, India, which is the northernmost region of India. And if anybody's ever come across the Golden Temple, it's actually called Harmandir Sahib for us. That's sort of, I would say, the equivalent to our Vatican, which is also in Punjab. So we do go there for religious prayers, but we're all over the world. We're monotheistic. And honestly, Sikh, the word Sikh, Sikh, actually means learner. So in our faith, we always continuously learn, not just about ourselves, but other people and people across the world, whoever we come across. We're not that large as far as population goes, but our real belief is to give back, to be good citizens. There are not many rituals that are associated with our religion. We do pray every day. That's important. And we congregate in our temple, which is called Gurdwara. You can go there every day if you like, but a common time for us working folks is, like I said, Fridays and Sundays, where we have a full breadth of singing hymns, praying, and meeting people in our congregation. And they're about today, and even in New Jersey, there's over, I want to say, 10 Gurdwaras or temples across the state. And you will find one in almost every country. Although we're very, very new as a religion. But the biggest thing I would say is our the men wear turbans, and typically all of us should have long hair, and that's why you always, Natalie, see me with this bun that I support because my hair is pretty long.
Wow. Okay, that was enlightening, and I really value that. Thank you. I take great pride in understanding differences with other people, because in understanding our differences, I think is where we always find that common thread that keeps us bound.
Absolutely.
So here you are, the older sister with a younger brother. What was that like? How did that play out? Were you a girly girl, or were you that tomboy? What were your interests?
Sure. I was certainly not a girly girl at all. I was that total tomboy. I grew up playing, not that playing sports makes you a tomboy, but I was kind of rough and tough. I was not into, anything girly, whether it was makeup or anything glittery or sparkly. It was all about let's go out there and play in the dirt and mud. I was into karate my entire life. In fact, I shared this with you. I'm a black belt in karate. That was a large part of my childhood. Really into sports. I think I played everything up to the varsity level, from soccer to tennis to basketball. My brother is 4 years younger than me. I was a tough sister. He looked up to me, a lot for advice. In fact, he still does today. Any major move in his life, the first phone call typically after my parents is always me, like, "Hey, look, what do you think I should do?" So I think,
Oh.
and being an older sister, especially, like I said, growing up as a Sikh, setting sort of that path was really important, not just to me and my brother, but even other younger children and other friends in our community. We always felt this need, and even folks that were older than me that grew up here, I looked to them for advice. So I think it wasn't just being a sister to a younger brother. It was kind of like being a sister to him and all of his friends. They still, I'm not even kidding, today, many of them call me for, "Hey, what do you think I should do?" So it was great. I mean, we had a fantastic childhood. Our grandparents lived with us, so we know our language, which is really nice. We
Wow.
speak Punjabi fluently. That comes into play when we go to India. It's awesome. It's a beautiful language. But like I said, really close knit family. Really relied on my grandparents, our parents, each other for everything. And it was a great way to grow up in that sort of sense of family and community.
So here you are in Bergen County, which, I tell people there are very few places I could live in America if I weren't living in Bergen County, because we take our diversity for
Mhm.
granted so much. We expect you to look different. We expect to hear
Yeah,
different languages. So tell me about making the decision to go off to college. Where did you go? How did you make that decision? What was influencing you socially at that
sure.
time?
Sure, I'll tell you. I went to Seton Hall University, and my major was criminal justice. I grew up with a family that, where there was social justice or criminal justice or human rights. That was a big part of, what we sort of supported, went through, and always advocated for. My cousin played a large role in that as well. He went to law school and eventually, in his career, became the Bergen County prosecutor and the first Sikh attorney general in U.S. history, Robert Grewal. And I always looked to him. He was like my older brother, although he's my cousin. Gave great advice in life, and that sort of set me on my path to the criminal justice piece, thinking that I would get into that field. But it was a great sense of knowledge on what goes on day to day, whether it's in the criminal justice system and even beyond. And I think it's not just the law and the legal world. It just really had a great interest for me because of him. So that played into my undergraduate degree. Although down the line, I went on a different path, and I think that happens in life sometimes. But it still really influenced me even today in the work I do. It really plays into some of the reentry work that we do on the RWJ side.
So I see over the time of your career, and I would love for you to share with us the decisions you made post grad, after leaving Seton Hall. How did your career get started? Where did you go? Where did you grow up professionally, per se?
Sure. So I had this fantastic opportunity after Seton Hall in working with my father. After his career as being a professor, he moved on to being an entrepreneur. He owned and operated and even became a distributor for some of the largest oil companies in this country and beyond, in fact, for the East Coast. So my decision after Seton Hall was to go ahead and get my master's degree in corporate and organizational communications, which led to getting an MBA. So I had a focus in business and marketing as well. And I started out my career and my development, actually probably started when I was much younger, because I spent a lot of time riding next to my dad in his car wherever he went, and even attending these large scale business meetings. He always, no matter what my age was, had me at the table, which was really interesting. So I got to hear a whole lot of business deals, business making, and just what his business trajectory was, because I always had this seat, which was really neat and not typical at a young age. And the career, obviously, in education led for me to have a permanent seat in his company. And I spent a lot of time in that world, and it's very interesting. It still is today, especially with the way, of course, we're moving in this country and beyond, and electric vehicle support and the infrastructure that needs to be laid to support that sort of a system, not just in New Jersey, but in this nation. So it was great to grow up in that way. But while I was with my father, I was like, look, Dad, this is fantastic. A lot of our family's in the same business. I want to do something different. And he was a big supporter of education. I mean, from the time I was probably born, and he was also a professor. He'd always tell my brother and I, look, it's your education and the time you put into school that'll help you get to that next level. And that's where I was like, okay, look, this is fantastic, Dad. I want to have more of a terminal degree. So I sat with him and got him his advice. I didn't think I wanted to go to medical school, but I did want to be involved in healthcare, because there was this sort of, Natalie, this paradigm shift that was happening in that space, where it was going from fee for service, which is, still a part of the equation, but really to looking at the whole person. What in your life is leading you to poor health? And it's multiple decisions we make, but there are a lot of these outside factors that impact that. And that really drove me to get my doctorate, my PhD in health and medical sciences, where I wanted to learn how to be an administrator, how to operate, whether it's a small healthcare facility or a large one, and really get to sort of the core of what those issues are in this country. And that's what led me back to Seton Hall to get my doctorate. And, it sort of got me into that new role of healthcare. And it wasn't easy. I at that point, this was my now third degree post undergrad. I loved education. I mean, academia, even today, if someone said you had the opportunity to go back to school, I probably would. I love that space. It's such a great environment, no matter how old or young you are. And, that got me into my time doing my dissertation, which was at Hackensack University Medical Center. Spent a lot of time there in their emergency department, collecting surveys at that time, which led me to my eventual career.
Wow. So at some point in this trajectory, in this really a stellar academic experience, and you've broken so many stereotypes today, time won't allow me to get into some of the questions I had for you, but the time you spent at your dad's feet growing up, learning the business. When did you meet your now husband?
Well, we grew up together. So we went to the same temple. Yogi, my husband, migrated here from India as well when he was 18 years old. And our families always knew each other. So my parents knew his parents. My family, my cousins interacted with his sisters and always knew him. But really sort of got to the dating scene in undergrad. Had a lot of commonalities, obviously.
That early on. Oh, fabulous.
Yeah. No, it was great. And it just sort of took off from there, and whatever. And it was kind of nice to grow up further together, if you will. I think it played out well for us. Thank God. Obviously, still married today, and
Awesome.
have 3 young children we're raising right here in Bergen County.
I still don't understand how you have time to have a family, and not just one beautiful little girl, but these 2 little angels, and then that bundle of bubbly baby boy that pops out.
Yes, they're the joy of my life. Honestly, they keep me going because work and life and what you do professionally sometimes gets stressful. But trust me, Natalie, as soon as I come home, they're running towards me with all of their little problems. Mom, this happened at school. She pulled my hair. He took my toy. And it's so nice to just get to that, that just real core love and these things that they come to you with. And the way I can keep this going is great because my husband, Yogi, is very supportive of everything I'm doing, which is key to my success. I also have these amazing in-laws, Yogi's parents, who continuously help on the day-to-day. My mom lives a mile away from me. And I have this lovely nanny that helps as well. Well, there's a team that's saying that it takes a village is so true,
Yes.
especially if you have a career that you want to keep up with, but have a whole lot of hands on deck.
So one of the reasons you were selected as an honoree is primarily because you're so elegant about everything you do. It all seems so effortless. And what you do impacts the community, and it impacts oftentimes those who could easily be overlooked. Being an advocate, and I use the term advocate with the greatest respect because I too am a health advocate, and I understand what it takes to be on the corporate side and still maintain your integrity, because we know our healthcare system is flawed. And so the passion that you bring to that, but then you take that passion into social justice, something you talked about earlier. And I want to stay away from any particular political brands because God forbid Facebook decides to flag us. But you have been so significant in the state of New Jersey in what I call a rainmaker. You have impacted so many campaigns, and you're doing it on behalf of the least of these and the people. Help us understand how you manage to get all that done, and what drives you into staying really plugged in at the grassroots level, impacting the upper levels.
Sure. I mean, it's really the work that I do in the healthcare space, Natalie. I think, when you're looking into to healthcare, a lot of people just think, hey, you're there, you're sick, you're cured, you're fixed, whatever you want to call it, and you're out there. But there's so much work that goes on in between. And healthcare disparities is really my focus. And it was in my previous career, and it is today, especially today, actually, I'm working very closely with the city of Newark, FQHCs, and where those disparities lie, and how healthcare systems can really support patients from getting the care. When you have a diagnosis or you have something that you're dealing with, an unfortunate situation, where do you go from there? Navigating the healthcare system is not that easy. And the reason I know that is because of my father, in fact. My dad, during Hurricane Sandy, suffered a spinal cord injury. I was actually in the middle of my doctorate program, and unfortunately, he got into a car accident. He was supplying first responders fuel so they can get to the hospital to help others, because life went on even during that time. So he got a spinal cord injury in a car accident, and unfortunately what that led to was paralysis from the neck down. My dad was a quadriplegic for about 7 to 8 years of his life. And I remember going there into the ER with him. I rode the ambulance with him. And the neurosurgeon came over, and I knew him. He's like, Balpreet, I have some horrible news. Your dad suffered a spinal cord injury, and it's going to be pretty difficult from here on in, because paralysis from the neck down for a man that was just sort of the rock of our family and did everything for us was really tough for not just him, but our entire family to sort of figure out. And I don't care how well versed you are in healthcare, whether it's a small injury or a horrible diagnosis, there's a steep climb or steep ladder on the education side on how to deal with that. Mm-hmm. And I remember sitting there thinking, my gosh, like there's so much going on with his body. How do we get him home? How do we get him that care he needs, and learn about this injury and really eventually I became an advocate for it. I literally, Natalie, traveled to China to figure out, if there's stem cell research there, what's going on in India, what's going on in Florence, Italy on this injury. And in doing that, I was like, my gosh, and I know enough to navigate, but if there's a lay person, and which there are, that have any level or any part of this injury, for them to become advocates, or for them to really understand what to do next, or for their family members, my gosh, how difficult is that, Yeah. And that's what really made me that much more passionate, not just for the underserved communities, but just patients, their families, and becoming advocates for them. I literally, after my dad's injury, went to DC, and I'm like, look, spoke in front of a congressional briefing, and I said, look, this is an area that needs more focus. It's not cancer, it's not heart disease, and unfortunately, because of that, is sometimes spinal cord injury or even paralysis doesn't get the same level of attention, and it needs to. And that's where that political piece plays in, because policy change, speaking to your local representatives, no matter who they are, and making sure that they understand the concerns of the community. And it doesn't have to be just healthcare. It can be anything you're passionate about, anything you want to change. Having an understanding of what that path looks like, how to call your representatives, how to ask them, look, this is a concern. There's this many thousand people that have the same issue. How do we figure this out? And I think that's where the political piece really played in. And that's where I really became even that much more involved in informing people. And it goes back to, look, criminal justice, civil rights, healthcare, our children, our school systems, everything involves some sort of a policy. Understanding what those policies are and how to help change them for the positive is really something that I believe every person should try at whatever level to understand and try to be involved wherever you can be, and to be an advocate, to be a change maker in a good way. So that's a very short way of telling you how I got to where I am today. But when you go through something personally and it hits home, you become this advocate for it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have been talking with the astute, as you have experienced right here, and very accomplished, disciplined Black belt. Yeah. So do not mess with her. If you see her going, just let her be.
I like that, Natalie. Thanks for clearing the path.
How can we stay in touch with you, Dr. Grewal-Virk, and how can we support some of the causes that you stand so strongly for?
So I'm certainly on Facebook with my name. So if you'd like to send a request, more than happy to accept at Balpreet Grewal-Virk. Professionally, I think everybody should be on LinkedIn. That's a great way to keep up to date on what's going on in my life. Professionally, more than happy to speak to people individually if you have any questions, whether it's healthcare, policy, politics, building a bridge and tunnel. Or if you just want to chat, look, I'm here to help whoever I can. If I have the time and you reach out, I'll certainly make the time to talk to you. More than happy to help out wherever I can, Natalie. And
Wonderful.
Just really lucky to be on here.
No, it's such an absolute pleasure. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to learn more about Dr. Grewal-Virk, please join us on Sunday live at the Capitol Grill in Paramus. We're going to be celebrating her and two other amazing women. And I think we need another 30 minutes just to talk about some of the other things you're doing, because we could keep doing this for a few weeks before we really cover the length and breadth. And to your 3 munchkins, please give them our love. To Yogis, please tell them hello. And of course, we thank you so much for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking with Dr. Balpreet Grewal-Virk, and I hope I got it right. She is, of course, the Vice President of Community Health at RWJ Barnabas Health. Congratulations, and thank you so much for joining us. We wish you absolute best.
Thank you so much, Natalie, and to your entire team. Really looking forward to Sunday and meeting more of your friends and family there.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been watching Living Life Authentically with yours truly. So remember, check us out live for tickets for Sunday's event, and you can get your tickets right here by scanning the barcode that popped up, or you can visit us at Eventbrite, and that's whw2023.eventbrite.com. We've been talking with Dr. Balpreet Grewal-Virk of RWJ St. Barnabas Health. I'm Natalie B. McKenzie, and I wish you enough life to live, enough joy to give, enough love to share. I wish you enough. Good night.